Does anyone remember Pokemon Green? I'm not referring to the Japanese game with the Venusaur on the box. I mean the one sold in American stores with the cipher on the front. I seem to be the only one who remembers the game. I wish I never encountered it in the first place. It all started in 1998 when Pokemon made its way to the US with Blue and Red. I was only 7 years old, and a friend of mine had let me borrow his copy of Blue, and from the moment forward, I was addicted to the series. When the time came, I was reluctant to return to the game to him, but I did for the next few days. All I could ever talk about was the game. As a kid, your whole world can revolve around a simple game like Pokemon. I ended up helping out my dad with the yard and work for at least a few days before my birthday, and I couldn't help but talk about his ear off about Pokemon. To my surprise, he said, "Get in the car, we're going to Walmart." He was really about to purchase me my own copy of Pokemon? I was incredibly excited. This was one of the best dad days of my life, but it would also lead me to one of my worsts. We arrived at Walmart, and my father told me that this would be an early birthday gift, and I could only keep it if I behaved myself and did all my chores. I would have done everything to get my hands on a copy of Pokemon. We went inside and made our way to the video game section, and there they were. Sprawled across the shelves were beautiful fashion, Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and Green. I never heard of Pokemon Green, but the cipher on the cover interested me, and I had to have it. I grabbed a copy and then checked at the register, then went home as happy as I could be. That happiness would not last. When I arrived at my house, I ran upstairs to my room and tore apart his box, and I took the cartridge out. The cartridge was very odd. I assumed that it might have been a normal picture of cipher on it, just as the box did, but instead the cipher was offset to the right, almost as if it was battling something and wasn't there. It had me almost glowing. The background was black, and underneath was the Pokemon logo. It did not say green version as I expected. As unsettled as this had made me feel, I placed the cartridge to my Game Boy. I turned it on and found that instead of viewing the intro, like in Blue, it immediately brought me to a screen with the only one choice, continue, where was new game. I wasn't too disappointed. My overwhelming curiosity compelled me to click on continue. I did so, and after a few moments, I found my character what I assumed to be was my home. I tried to walk outside, but to my dismay, I could not exit the house. There were no stairs, and I could not interact with any of the objects in the room. What the heck? I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach, realizing that my cartridge may be broken, and I may not be able to play this amazing video game after all. I shut off my Game Boy and then took the cartridge out and blew it, then put it back in. It brought me to the same screen with the same option, continue. I clicked on continue and it brought me to the same room. I tried everything, but shutting it off, blowing the cartridge a few more times before I finally came too frustrated and gave up. What the hell was going on? I told my dad about the game, and he took a look at it, and he brought the same screen and the same room, and as well, I could not escape this room. He turned the box up on my floor and sighed. "Well, we can't return it now." To my surprise, he then said, "I'll have to get you a new one tomorrow." I came incredibly happy once more, and gave my dad the biggest hug that I could ever have given him in my life. Though my disappointed in the game, I received it. I was glad to have the opportunity to get another one. The next day, my father and I proceeded to Walmart. We walked over to the video games section, and a lot of the Pokemon games were gone. Half of Blue, most of Red, and all of Green had apparently been sold. There wasn't even shelves anymore of Pokemon Green had been. Wow, I thought to myself, Green must be popular. I wasn't upset. I wasn't intending on purchasing another copy of Green somehow, seeing as if it didn't work out like last time. This time I grabbed Red, and I already played Blue and attempted to play Green, so this time I wanted to try something new. When we got home, I ran upstairs and opened the box carefully. In my case that we had returned this one, I took the Red cartridge out and placed it on my Game Boy, and played it for about hours. I played the Pokemon Red until the sun came up the next morning, and to this day, Red is still my favorite Pokemon games, and it was a great childhood memory. As for Green, I put it in the drawer and forgot about it until many years later. It was May of 2007 when I received a copy of Pokemon Pearl for the Nintendo DS. My dad, knowing how much I loved the series, I bought it out of the blue, knowing that how happy I'd be like. "Thank you so very much," I exclaimed. Before my dad could even respond, I ran to the door to my friend Billy's house and showed him. "What?" he said. "My mom just bought me Diamond." Apparently my dad and Billy's mom have planned this for a week, and about the two of us catching on. Without another word, we started to play, and we felt like kids again. After many hours, we stopped playing and decided to relive our childhoods and to talk about the original generation of Pokemon. "My favorite will always be Pokemon Red," I stated. "Blue for me," said Billy. I recalled my first time playing Red, then remembered something that I have thought about for years. The game hadn't been played before Red, or at least tried to, Pokemon Green. "What about Green?" I asked Billy. "Did you ever play that one before?" Billy looked confused. "Very funny." Now I was confused. "What do you mean, very funny?" Billy looked at me displeased. "You and I both know there is no such thing as Pokemon Green." "But there is," I said. He now realized I wasn't joking. He was further confused. What are you talking about?" To my understanding up until this point, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green came out at the same time, in 1998. It soon became overshadowed by Red and Blue, and this is why I hadn't heard so much about Green since my younger years. This is what I thought of, at least. According to Billy, the biggest Pokemon expert I know, Pokemon Green doesn't exist, at least not an American one with the cipher on the front. Determined to prove Billy wrong, I invited him to my house and brought him the game to my living room, where I would show him the copy of Pokemon Green. I dug through the drawers in my desk and eventually turned them upside down in my efforts, only to be let down. "Where is it?" Distinctly remember putting it in my desk drawer from when I was younger. "See?" Billy said. "Green doesn't exist. You probably just dreamed it up or something." Billy went home, but I kept searching and searching, only to tear my room apart for nothing. Pokemon Green was gone. The following day I woke up and jumped out of my bed, brushed my teeth, and continued downstairs. There I found my father, with a large breakfast waiting for me as usual. Sunday we ate and indulged some small talk about sports and the weather. I decided that maybe I should ask my dad about the game, and so I did. "Oh, that old thing? Oh yeah, I took it from your room after I bought you the new one, and I tried to return it without the package. They tried to lie to me and said they didn't sell the game there. I gave them what I came for and stormed out. They could have told me they needed a box. Anyways, I think it's on my dresser upstairs. I'll go get it." As my dad made his way up to his room, I thought to myself what Billy said, that the game doesn't exist, and Walmart said that they never carried it in their store. This was beginning to make me feel uneasy. Lo and behold, my father came downstairs and handed me the game that I'd been searching for, Pokemon Green. I felt unnerving, but overwhelming that I needed to attempt to play the game once more, so I grabbed my old Game Boy from my room and proceeded to play. I would have had Billy's dissect the game with me, but he's usually at church with his family around this time, so I was alone with my efforts. The game started the way it normally did, nothing but to continue to choose from. I chose so, and found my character in the same room, trapped, but this time being older. I was able to pay attention to more detail. Maybe I could now find a way out. I hit start and to see if I had any Pokemon in the party with Cypher. Not surprising, level 25. Knowing the only moves Strength, Cut, and Flash, I could Cypher for even learn all those moves. I ventured off my items to find nothing to my trainer stats, to only find that I had no money, badges, and 0 hours clocked in, which was impossible if I hadn't already crossed the threshold. Weird I had known that I had that. I gave the room a good look once over to see if I spotted anything missed as a child. To my delight, I did. There was a boulder in the room, and as a kid, I probably thought it was a chair or something, considering that I never really played Pokemon before. The boulder was on the right side of the room and against the wall. Naturally, I had Cypher use strength, and I was able to move it. I walked up to the spot on the wall that the boulder was right in front of it, and pressed the A button. The text box came up and just said dark. Every time I hit A, it would just say dark. What the hell was even happening? I thought for a second I remembered that Cypher knew flashed, so I used it near the wall and where the boulder had been. The path became lit, seemingly miraculous exit that I had found. I grew less unnerved but then more excited as I walked almost the endless hallway just to see a big enough for my character to squeeze through. I finally came to a literal light at the end of my tunnel, as if I was exiting a cave rather than a house. I walked it through, and where did it bring me? I ended up at the side of my house what looked like Pallet Town. Mind you, my house was a bit of a normal size, void of protruding extensions of the side where the hallway would have been. This was odd, but I just shrugged and then continued any protruding extensions on the other side of where the hallway would have been. This was odd, but I managed to shrug it and kept playing. There was absolutely no way to get back in the house. Seeing that there were no doors, I walked around for a bit and found that there were no doors or any sign of the buildings. It was a ghost town, aside from what looked like Professor Oak, standing in front of his lab with the doors shut or would have been. I tried walking to him, but a text box came up with nothing. This made me feel on edge, but I marched on. The only logical thing left to do was to head up to Viridian City, so I started downwards towards the game. Before I could even touch the grass, Professor Oak came up from behind me. "What do you think you're doing? It's too dangerous for you and your Pokemon." A battle sequence started, and I was really going to battle Professor Oak? Sure enough, I was. The sprite Oak was strange. He was looking down at the ground with the expression on his face that made him look like though he was troubled somehow. Oak sent out his level 5 Squirtle, and I sent out my level 25 Cypher. The Squirtle sprite then looked the same as Oak, troubled and looking down. I beat it quickly and Oak said, "Don't go." Then he sent out, unsurprisingly, a troubled level 5 Charmander. I beat him quickly and Oak restarted, "Don't go." Then sent down another level 5, an equally troubled Bulbasaur. I finished him off and the battle was over, but not before Oak came on screen for last time and says, "Don't go." Professor Oak stayed where the grass was as I walked off towards Viridian City. Once he was out of the sight, the text box popped up, probably from Oak, with the words, "I beg of you, do not leave. You won't be able to return." I, unmoved by Oak's words, unnerved by the creepiness of what I saw, was now convinced that it was a hacked game, so I pressed on towards Viridian City. Before I could reach my destination, the light illuminating the way disappeared, and it became more darker and darker until it was pitch black. Just as it became pitch black, I ran towards a wild Pokemon. From this point on forward, I will refer to this Pokemon simply as the Invisible. It was at level 100 and it had no sprite or a name. I was unable to fight it because each time I would choose one of Cypher's moves, it would say, "Cypher's too scared to move." I would run away from the battle in an attempt to move, but find myself running into the same Invisible again. Before I could even take one step, I was stuck. This happened for about 5 times, before I finally decided to stay still and think. What if I used Flashed? I had Cypher use Flash only to find the path to Viridian City dimly lit with dark green tint. I continued and the Invisible seemed to have vanished. I finally made it to Viridian City, or at least a dark green city with a dimly lit version, and as soon as I stepped onto the town, a textbook popped up and said, "Viridian City, stay forever and enjoy the gym." What the hell? Stay forever and enjoy the gym? I tried walking back the way I came, but there was an invisible wall. I tried walking forward only to find another invisible wall at the tip of the town. Oak was right, I would never return or leave Viridian City. I calmed down a bit and explored the town. Much like Pallet Town, the buildings had no doors except for the gym, and the only person in town was the old man who teaches you how to catch Pokemon. Avoiding the old man who I found out to be creepy, the normal Pokemon games, I tried the gym and it was locked. I walked around town and inevitably I had to talk to the old man in the process. Reluctantly, I did so. Hey, so do you want to catch Pokemon, do you? You want to become a Pokemon master and defeat the powerful trainers in the league? Enjoy the endless life of solitude? I was given the yes or no option. Endless life solitude? I chose no. Well then, stay forever and enjoy the gym. What the hell? I can't stay and enjoy a locked gym. I went to spoke to him again and said the exact same script, only this time I chose yes. He said, well then, you are on your very way that you will always want to be. But first come with me. I will introduce you to a true Pokemon master. He walked me to the gym and stood near the entrance, and I tried to speak with him again, but it wouldn't work. I guess he wouldn't be introducing me to anyone. I tried the gym once more, and this time I could walk in. I was slightly nervous, but thought to myself, it was only a hacked game, made by some mentally unstable Game Freak worker or something. Only part believed me that while the rest of me believed that this game was more sinister than that. I just hope it wasn't the latter. I then found my character inside darkness, and the gym was pitch black. I had Cypher use flash and enter the gym, and became dimly lit with dark green tint, as I expected. The gym was nothing more than a complicated maze, was red here, and it was just a small room. At the tip of the room what looked like Giovanni, I walked over to him and hit the A button. He said, unfortunately, this is where your Pokemon journey ends, and there's nothing beyond this point, and you will remain in this room forever. I'm sorry. What? This is it? It can't be. I walked around the room multiple times and tried leaving, but as Alice, I could not. I sat there disappointed as my creepy game was. I felt a strong need to finish it. After a few moments, I tried speaking to Giovanni again. This time he just simply said, I'm sorry. Every time I spoke to him, that was all he would say was, I am sorry. I tried talking to him from the other side, but it didn't work. Then I tried talking to him from behind in the space right before the wall at the end of the gym. He then turned and said, I am sorry. I truly am. The battle sequence started, and finally, the productiveness. Giovanni has no choice then came up on the text box, as opposed to Giovanni wants to fight. That was weird, but I brushed it off. Like any other weird thing in the game, the battle started. Giovanni sent out was all what the text box said, and the Pokemon he sent out was none other than the Invisible at level 100. Once again I sent out Cypher against it, but I could only assure that the Pokemon. This time I could actually fight. Each time the Invisible used a move, it would say used, and nothing would happen. Every time you used Strength or Cut, it would miss. Every single time the battle was never going to end, I finally decided to use Flash, and what happened was quite unexpected. The Invisible became visible, and the Pokemon was none other than Cypher, but a darker version, much like the dark green cast over the town. The sprite also was strange. I can only describe it as sinister. Evil looking, I guess, we fought. My moves didn't miss this time, but did a little damage to a level 100 Cypher. The darker green version of my Pokemon knew the moves of my Pokemon as well, and after using Cut twice, my Pokemon was defeated. Giovanni then came on the screen and once says more, I am sorry. I was then turned back to the gym. Even though my only Pokemon had fainted, I double checked and Cypher did in fact have 0 HP. I walked over to Giovanni and talked to him one last time. This is what he said. You have to find a way out. He has control over all of us, and you'll be the another victim. There is a door. His silence was cut off by the animation. The animation was Cypher grabbing Giovanni from behind, and I stared at the still image for a while. Giovanni then looked so frightened that it looked sick to my stomach. Maybe after about 3 minutes, the image faded out and I was back at the gym. The room was the same, but Giovanni was gone. I tried to leave, but as soon as I reached out for the door, another animation started. It was the same as the last one, but instead of Giovanni and Cypher's grips, it was my Cypher. Now I was scared. After a few minutes, the animation played out and my Cypher was cut into pieces. Even though the low quality of the animation It still indicated a great deal of fear into me. The animation ended, and then it skipped to an image of my cipher's head, looking ever so frightened as it ever in the darkness. A text box then popped up saying, "More than you fainted." Here the game froze. Disturbed, I slid the cartridge out of my Game Boy and threw it at the wall. I ran downstairs and poured myself a glass of water. After calming down, I called Billy and had him come over. I needed someone else to tell this experience. Needless to say, I was freaked out. Billy overcame rather quickly. "What is it? That happened?" After I explained everything, the best of my ability, he just laughed. "Yeah, right," he said. I told him I would prove it. I ran upstairs and picked the cartridge on the floor, and then ran back downstairs and showed him. He was unimpressed. "How long did it take you to make this?" I was a little angry at this point. "I didn't make it. It's real. Play it and you'll see." I handed him my Game Boy and he put the cartridge in. He turned it on, but nothing happened. He took the cartridge out and blew on it, but to no avail. It didn't work anymore. I must have damaged it when I threw it at the wall. Billy laughed again. "You had me going for a second." He then left and went home. While I sat there still taking in what just happened, just moments before Billy arrived. I thought out loud, Giovanni said there was a door. Maybe I should have looked for it instead of trying to leave. Really, my thoughts were pointless to this day. I can't get the cartridge to work. I'd wish I looked for the front door and avoid seeing that animation. In a way, it traumatized me, and I haven't been the same way since. And as you can see, I still have the cartridge, and I scanned it out with me using my printer, so you can see a close-up of the photo what it looks like. I know it's a little blurry, but it's the best I could do. This game is real. And that, my little praise, was Pokemon Dark Green, a Pokemon creepypasta written by Christopher Maxim. Maxim, I think you could say. Now, this story, what my final thoughts on it? I think this was an okay story. I mean, an okay Pokepasta. Not perfect, but not bad either. I mean, I've heard of this narration, like, from a few people, such as, well, Silver Stories and etc. I mean, I've seen a few people that did narrate this story. And I did take a look at this story, and I could say this story was okay. I find this to be an okay, Pokepasta. Maybe not the best ones I've seen, but not a terrible story. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, it was okay. But to be honest, I really didn't care about this story for whatever the story reason is. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. This story, it does have somewhat of an interesting concept. And I'm not gonna lie, that the concept of it I found it to be interesting, as well as the storyline for it. I mean, the only thing was of how cliched it sounded like. Like, maybe that might be just me, but the cliched parts of it is, getting the game from a store, like from Walmart and that. I mean, that's cliched. I mean, that's been done a few times before, so that's a cliche I did notice when I was, reading this story. I mean, that's a cliche that I did notice, but I mean, it's not a bad story. I mean, maybe it could be, maybe use a little bit of improvement, but I didn't find this story to be a bad story. Maybe there could be something more added, I guess. But yeah, I know I haven't read this story in a long time. I mean, the grammar was good. I'm not gonna lie about that. I mean, the grammar was pretty good for what this is. I mean, this Pokepasta, I mean, I haven't read a Pokepasta in oh god, it's been quite a long time since I actually read this Pokepasta. I mean, maybe this Pokepasta could be improved, yes. But I mean, this story wasn't terrible. I mean, yeah, I wish this story would have had somewhat of a potential to be good. But this story, I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I wasn't a fan of this story. Maybe it's not a bad creepypasta, but I mean, I wasn't a fan of this story. it's one of these stories I'm just, not a fan of it or don't really care, quote unquote, but not a terrible story. I mean, it's been a while since I last sat there and took a look at this story, so that's kind of why I was kind of hesitant to read this one, but not a bad story. I mean, not bad, but not great either. That's all I have to really say. I mean, no, this story was alright. Maybe it could be a little bit improved. Maybe cliched, beginning storyline could be removed and all. But I mean, I can understand if this is like an older story, so I might excuse that if it's like an older story. Well, not really excuse it, but I'll give it benefit of the doubt that it might be an older story, so that might be it. Maybe that's just me, but you guys might have your own opinions on that note. So, yeah, I mean, oh my goodness, I haven't done a poke pasta in like a really long time. I think the last time I did one was like sometime months ago. But at least I decided to go ahead and narrate this story because I haven't narrated this story in like a really long time. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't narrated I didn't narrate this story until now, but I haven't read a poke pasta in like, oh god, it's been quite a while since I last did a poke pasta. So I mean, this one was an okay one. It was a decent story in that. Not bad, not great either, but it didn't suck. That's the one main thing I have to say. It didn't suck. So, I guess with that said, I'm going to sit here and say this right now. This is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that is fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because because the story was decently well written and all that. The story seemed to had a good concept and all. Not the best poke pasta I've seen, but it's definitely not a terrible story. Not a bad story, but not perfect, not great either. I mean, it's not a bad story, but not great either. I mean, it does need some improvements, but the story wasn't too bad. I'm gonna be honest, the story was not too bad. But anyways, what did you guys think about this story? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what would you have done person to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.